Tell us about the black-breasted leaf turtle. Why is it the cult turtle that it has become?
Come on, it's everything. You know, everyone and their mother wants them, but at the same time, not enough people want them. There's not much that's cooler than them. They're 4 inches. They're attractive. They're inquisitive nature, and they're the cool googly eyes. People see photos and they don't think that they're real. They think somebody put googly eyes on the turtle to make it look more impressive or exciting or whatever. So it looks like AI like created a turtle that doesn't really exist or something.
Are
So
they
there's
nocturnal with those giant eyes?
no, they're just they live down on the forest floor where there's a lot of leaf litter, and then the secondary forest, and and then the really dense canopy above and everything. So there's just not a lot of light. It's not a very sunny place. So
Vietnam? Is that where they live?
yeah, northern Vietnam and southern, well, yeah, southern China and Hainan Island, which is where a lot of the poached animals are still coming from. Because the animals from Hainan are incredible. I wish we had a photo we could pull up. They look like clown spangler eye. They're smaller. They have bright colors, and their heads have whites and yellows and things. They don't have the white iris that the male spangler eye is known for. They have a brown iris that makes the eye look black. So it looks like a spangler eye on drugs with amazing head coloration. They're crazy. So people just go nuts for them, and there's a really. So I mean I'll just leave it at this. I made a post today, and then I took it down, and I'm not going to tell you why. It is what it is. But the reason why I like to let people know about the recent history of them being smuggled is because I've had more people than I can count come to me and say, "Hey, I bought these spangler eye from somebody I didn't know. What do you think?" And oh no, the spangler eye died. So I think there's, like, with hingebacks, which are commonly imported, they're being imported and it's at least being checked, and there's like a procedure in place. It's not always a great procedure, but I assure you it's better than animals that are smuggled. And when they're being sold
Yeah.
to people, people know, for the most part, not people who buy from pet stores, but people know when they're buying a hingeback, it's an animal that was imported, that was taken from the wild, all that. And there are risks involved, and you should probably
Yeah.
get some veterinary care, and you probably shouldn't keep them in large groups, with no sight barriers and whatever else. Like they stress easily, and they have other issues and underlying issues. So the problem with this situation and what happens, it was happening a lot around like 2016, a lot.
Really?
There was one person who was arrested who for wildlife trafficking, and he had a pair for sale. Okay, pair of spangler eye, and I was contacted by people who were buying groups of spangler eye from him, but he had this ad up, and because spangler eye are so sought after, multiple people contact him, and once they contact him for this one pair, then he'll talk to them and say, "Oh, I actually have this and this. Would you be interested in 2.3? Would you be interested in this? Would you be interested in that?" And they keep
Wow.
talking, and now all of a sudden there's all these spangler eye, and the people don't talk to each other because they don't know. It's not a public conversation. And next thing you know, this one person from that particular person had purchased 13 spangler eye and lost all 13 of them. And I could account for 44 animals that came from this one person at that time. And I felt like, after knowing what ended up happening and him being arrested after the fact and all of that, I felt like I should have done more. So fast forward to now, I see someone who is posting a pair for sale, and then I'm being contacted by multiple people who bought several pairs from that person who's selling a
Wow.
pair that they've had for a long time.
So
So
I
it's
saw this ad. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. I
so, and I
think.
don't want to get too far into the ad because
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
about like who, it's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't
Exactly.
know
Yeah.
who the person is who's selling it,
Yeah.
and it seems too good to be true, it might be too good to be true, and you
Yeah.
just have to be careful. And the price was like, there's certain things you look for, right? Like, there's the price is a little lower than it should be, right? The
Yeah.
animals' shells look a little more perfect than they should be. They said they have a pair, but they have multiple pairs. Wow, I wasn't sure if I wanted to sell all 20 of them that I've had for this long, but so I just posted the pair. But if you're interested in the 20, I've got the 20. And then all of this is going on while people in Asia are sending photos of incredible amounts of animals that are being taken out of the wild, both, spangler eye and jagged-shelled box turtles, Cora mahudii.
AKA Pixidia.
Yeah. Yeah, in my mind, I call it Pixidia, but yeah, Pixidia sounds better.
Yeah, Pixidia.
I don't know which one's right. You grow up reading these Latin names, and who knows what the heck the real pronunciation is. So yeah, absolutely. That's the situation.
Interesting. So you're probably you're getting kind of inundated by chats and things like that by people that
yes and no. There's the combination of people who are like, hey, did you see this? What do you think? And then there's people like, hey, I just bought some from this person. What do you think? Do you know them? I just think people just need to be careful. It happens with more than just, leaf turtles, but when you have a species that a lot of people want, people know that. And when you have, folks who are getting caught get a slap on the wrist, it's worth it. I mean, 44 spangler eye that person had sold in addition to all the other animals that they have been selling over the years. It's a lot of money, and you can get away with it for a long time. And then, the crime, is a lot more, the consequences for the crime are they're not on par with, drug charges and weapons charges. So it makes sense to illegally trade animals as opposed to the other two black markets.
Is there any legal trade for this species coming into the United States?
Not recently. They can be, but it takes a lot of red tape. So generally, no. Yeah.
They're not CITES 1, though.
They're not CITES 1. No, they're CITES 2. So it's tough. Sometimes you'll see CITES 2 stuff come in, and things can come in sometimes like from Hong Kong, but it's not common. Yeah.
So that's why they're illegally trafficking them. I put the title here, poaching and trafficking. So they're being poached. They're being illegally removed from the wild in their home country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Against the local laws there.
Yep. So
that's one problem. And then they're being sent other places.
Yeah. And there's middle people. And the problem too, you don't know where they're coming from. Now we're actually starting to get some genetic work done. I say we, like some of my animals were a part of that, but I'm not leading it. But yeah, they're starting to do some genetic work to see what animals that are in captivity come from where. But these newer animals, like I said, that were being smuggled in around 2016, kind of flip everything on its ear. I didn't know of any Hainan spangler eye in the U.S. until around that time, and now there are a few small groups of them in the U.S., which I mean, from a turtle nerd perspective, is like, on one hand, it's kind of cool, and I mean, don't get me wrong, like the animals that are in the markets and that are, sitting in China would be better off in the hands of people who want nothing more than to propagate them in captivity, because they're just going to die or be eaten. They're not going to be, released back into the wild. So.
Are they only being used as pets now?
No, I believe they're eaten too. Yeah. I've heard that they're eaten. I mean, they're not
medicinal, like Chinese medicine.
No, like soup.
Like that, yeah.
Wow. I don't look. I'm no expert. I haven't spent a bunch of time
in Vietnam,
as part of boots on the ground in
Yeah.
Vietnam and China. But
wow.
I just
Yeah.
I've tried to gather some, and I definitely see a lot of photos and talk to a lot of people.
What is your experience working with the wild caught ones?
Not extensive. I do have some wild caught and some long term captive animals. I had some. I had a couple that were smuggled in and sold around 2015, and there were two wild caught ones, and one died and one lived, and one is doing great still, but the one that died was actually a Hainan female, so that was sad to see that one die. I didn't buy those; they were given to me by someone who bought them from the person who ended up getting arrested. So,
I hear you talk about how lots of these came in maybe 30 years ago,
mhm.
and people would keep them in big groups, and one would remain
Yeah,
alive at the end.
yep.
What do you think was going on there?
Yeah, I that never crossed my mind until I was talking to Bill McCord about it. I'm like, it makes so much sense to hear him explain it in that way. He was the first person that explained it in that way. But stress kills
Yeah,
these. I would assume wild caught imported hingebacks are the same thing. Like you keep captive bred ones in groups. I'm sure they generally do better
yeah,
than wild caught animals that are staring at each other all day.
yeah.
So go ahead. I
Well,
don't
I
know
was
if you
just gonna
want to.
say, hingebacks have huge ranges, and they don't encounter each other often.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
The
think
ones.
Spangler are similar. Like, and that's why the males are so opportunistic in terms of breeding. Like, you put them together, they jump on the female immediately. There's no questions asked. The vast
Interesting.
majority of the time,
Yeah,
these aren't animals that are just sitting there. 10 of them on a rock together, like basking turtle. Like, they live, in the leaf litter, and they're not out all the time, and they're not staring at each other all the time. And then you see these photos where it's a bin that has 100 animals in it, stacked four high on top of each other. I mean, it's literally like if you had 100 people in a shipping container, naked, going to the bathroom on each other. It's literally that type of trauma,
wow.
and they get sick and they die. And but yeah, that thing with Bill, it's he would say, the way he explained it was, people would buy Spangler because they were so cheap. So I have price lists that sold them as cheap as $8.50 a piece in the late '90s, and people would buy groups because they're small. Like you think
Yeah,
like spider
small and cheap.
tortoises. Spider tortoises are small, but they do well in groups. At least captive bred ones. That's my only experience with them, but they do well in groups. So like, yeah, if someone wanted to sell me 100 spider tortoises tomorrow, I could keep them happy because they could be in groups and they'd be hunky
Yeah,
dory, and everything would be great. Well, for leaf turtles, that's not the case. I have quite a few leaf turtles here, and they live individually, all of them. Some people will keep like a couple females together in a nice size planted enclosure. I give my animals what some people might consider relatively small space, but I make sure that they're all separate because I think that that's a real key component with live plants and everything, and a water bowl that's big enough to hold their entire body and places to move around. They're really small turtles, but they do well when they're alone. And the way that Bill explained it was people would buy these groups because they were cheap. If you can get turtles for $30, $20, $10, $8.50, well, I'm going to buy 50 of them, and they're so small. I'll just set them up in these bins, and they can live together. I'll put them on some mulch, and then they would start dying. And the thing about Spangler eye when they die is they look okay. They're eating, they're moving around, everything looks good, and then all of a sudden they die. And there's a paper that would show with those animals, necropsies would show that there's lesions inside the body that you didn't see outwardly, but they were suffering from whatever was going on. And a lot of those animals benefited from. There's the papers on how to actually acclimate them with veterinary intervention, medication. I think metronidazole may have been involved. Um, yeah,
yeah,
so
for protozoans.
yeah, yeah. So it's all been documented, but it's like 20 years ago, and they're not imported anymore, so it's not necessary. But now it's necessary, and folks are not equipped for that, and they go into these purchases because they've been waiting for an opportunity to find some for sale, and these pop up, and it seems like such a great opportunity, and then they're turned
It's
off to it forever.
it's turtle fever.
Yeah.
They see animals, it's too good to be true, and then it's like click buy or yes, send them to me, and then all logic, all questions that you really should be
Yeah.
asking kind of just goes out the door because you found it, it's a great price. Beware, essentially, is what we're
Yeah.
suggesting.
It's like the male Spangler eyes. They don't see females all the time, so when they see it, they have to
Yeah.
jump. They have to jump immediately
Ah,
and do whatever they can. But I think I just want people to just be careful and like I said, the animals are probably better off in captive keepers'
once they've
hands.
been poached.
Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
there
yeah,
probably are,
yeah.
but people are buying. But people are buying, which then tells the person, okay, we should do this more, which isn't good. And then obviously people are buying with the best of intentions and then have a horrible experience.
Yeah,
They get
absolutely.
to watch these animals that they were so excited about die, suddenly right before their eyes after they thought
Ah,
that they had worked it out and it was working.
and
So
there's a lot of similarities and parallels to Hingebacks. It's really interesting.
yeah,
Let's go to the chat. We got some questions. So from Krista,
cool.
Anthony, she's in Canada. She's been trying to get your hands on your black-breasted leaf turtle book, and she
Oh,
has not had any luck. Is it still available?
yeah, it's on Amazon, Krista. Check it out on Amazon. I ship them out once in a while when I feel like I have the bandwidth to maybe make a post and say, hey, if anyone wants my book, I'll send you one. But I'm not the most organized person, and sometimes maybe I'm not great about that. And people are like 2 weeks later, like, come on, are you going to ship that thing I paid you for 2 weeks ago? So I don't love to do it, but they are available on Amazon too. You might have to, go to Amazon.com versus Amazon whatever is used in Canada. I'm sorry, I'm such an
You said that
uncultured,
really well.
right? I'm such an
Canada.
uncultured
They-
American.
I love how people say Canada.
Canada.
I was just in Maine, so kind of close. Um,
Krista, I
okay.
hope you're safe up there, you and your loved ones.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if they're in Eastern Canada, right? It's just nuts. I mean, I walked out of my building this evening to go
Yeah.
home in Cleveland, and I thought someone had a campfire going,
Yeah,
and
it's
no,
wild.
no, just smoke and burning forest smell.
I've never seen
In
anything like it in my life.
um,
Yeah.
it's what Cleveland looked like in the 1960s.
Interesting. Smog.
Um, yeah, from all the steel plants and stuff.
Yikes.
So this is a big question that I get a lot about hingebacks and things. But do the people that buy these animals under false pretenses have to be concerned about confiscation of those animals?
Not that I've ever seen. No.
Yeah,
But I think there's differences between buying and being a part of, what's going on. So, someone's making an ad and they're saying, I have these captive bred Spangler eye for sale or captive bred whatever for sale. And you're talking to them and they're like, yeah, we've had them for 3 years. They're doing really well. This is where I got them. Whatever, um, whatever story they give, and then you're buying them under those false pretenses, then you're not doing anything wrong. You're buying something, that's not a protected species here. It's not on the Endangered Species Act in the U.S. yet. Who knows if that'll change?
yeah,
And yeah, so no, but there are people that get arrested for buying, and those are the ones who are, talking to the people in China saying, yeah, I'll send some money to you and get him to this guy. And like, they look through your messages. Like, you have to be mindful when you are looking at when you're having conversations in Messenger and things like that. And you just have to
yeah,
make good
absolutely.
decisions. Like, I don't want to lose my Spangler eye or my Gilbinifrons or something because I bought a map turtle that's on the ESA. Like, I'm sorry, that's not a smart trade. Like, I don't want to lose my animals that I've worked so hard to set up because I, make a decision out of desperation because I've wanted an animal so bad or whatever. I think it's really important to know, like, If someone who you're buying from ends up getting in trouble for what they're doing, they may look at you to see what you knew and what you were part of, because these things are like webs, and there are people, members of our community, who end up being involved in these webs. So you have to be diligent about, like, and I ask myself all the time, like, is it more important for me to be somebody who can help others, like, understand some of these things better and share some of the things, some of the heartbreak and some of the interesting things that I've discovered along the way, like, to help them and help, do some educational stuff to help families understand and help young kids not run over the box turtle they see crossing the road 5 years later, like when they get their license. Like, that's more important to me. And I feel like if the desire to hatch the next species or keep the rare animal makes me make a decision that steps out of that lane, now I jeopardize everything else, because now the reputation goes out the window.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And Greg from Greg's Turtle Haven has joined us, and he says that he would not buy those, which I'm assuming were that species we're talking about today, outside of the network of people
I love
like
him.
Anthony and others in TTPG. So I think that's huge. Whenever you see these ads pop up, if they're for hingebacks, come to me or Jeremy. Chances are we already know about these animals, and people may have already offered to sell us the animals before they ever get put up on a board, right?
Yeah,
so
it's true.
I mean, all of a sudden people are asking me or telling me about these new Speaks hingebacks that they're buying in the UK. And the fact that they're part of a breeding group, and a gentleman passed away, and that's the story I'm
Right.
hearing. And I'm like, guys, 3 weeks ago, someone just put me in touch with a guy that imported a bunch of Speaks hingebacks to the UK. I don't think this is a coincidence.
Correct. Right. Yeah.
And so if you ever see anything weird or out of the normal, or some person that should not have this species, always, always, always tap the network, right? I mean, send that person a message. This is the kind of stuff we really care about, and we want people to have the good information. And that's why we're doing this tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense. And I think also, just remember, like, use that example of the person who sold at least 44, probably many more, Spengler Eye, from that one ad listing a pair. And the story was, I got this in a trade. I took over somebody's collection, got these in a trade. They don't really fit in what I'm doing, so I have this pair available, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is a story where, like, yeah, perfect. But, like, it's just like the smooth talker on a first date. Like, you don't really know if the person you're on the first date with has murdered someone or not. Like, you don't really know. And if they're a smooth talker, they can tell you the right story to make you think, like, you know what, okay. And if you're smart, you're a little bit, hesitant anyway. Like, I hope my daughters grow up to be that smart. But we want this thing so bad that we take that story that we hear and we take it as gospel, and we say, okay, yeah, this is perfect, ironclad, the story's there, this makes sense. That's it. And like I said, I'm not this goody two shoes type person who's like, oh, you have to follow the law. But the consequences, I think, are much bigger than just the slap on the wrist that happens to people. We're fighting a battle where we have to show that we are responsible. We've talked about that a lot, and many people have been talking about that a lot lately. So just be careful, because you don't want to watch these animals you care about, slowly, decompensate, and then all of a sudden die when you think that you were turning a corner. And you don't want to, be a part of something that's going to make you or our community look bad either. Like, to me, these people are not a part of our community, but to the people who are kind of the eye in the sky that's watching everything, they are a part of who we are. And I want to make sure that, like, it's known that they're not.
Yeah. And that's why we are doing this type of outreach, right? To help help grow our community, warn others, and then show the conservation community that we care.
Yeah, totally.
If someone has acquired an animal recently that has been imported, what advice do you give them as far as the best care for that animal?
Great question. So number one is become good friends with whatever deity you pray to. That's number one. No, seriously, keep them separate. That's number one. Keep them separate. Try to have planted enclosures, high humidity, not see-through enclosures where they can still see each other, like planted, opaque enclosures. They don't have to be huge, but they should have everything they need, clean water, that sort of thing. Live plants are so great for keeping humidity and providing shelter and a naturalistic feel. And then I think fecals and veterinary care for sure. I think too many times we spend money on the animals and then we don't spend money on the vet care. Like get the fecal done, see if the nematodes or whatever the heck is going on is there, and then treat accordingly. And then I would also suggest, I don't know, I don't have the paper, but I used it when I was writing my book. Find the paper on how Spengleri were treated, and I was like, I should be able to just give this to people who need it, but I don't have it right now.
Do you reference it in your book?
I do. I think it's in the works cited because I do reference it in the health chapter. It's just about, the
Sorry,
difficulties when they were
sorry.
being imported.
Yeah, might have been a little echo there for.
Oh, sorry.
It was my fault. Um. So, Jennifer says now I'm going to be paranoid, still getting to know the network.
Just go slow. Drive slow,
yeah.
homie. I can tell you right now, when I was getting started, I was like, there were so many things I wanted, and I just wanted people to take me seriously, and I just wanted to like hatch animals and have people like, Russ Gurley or somebody be like, wow, Anthony's doing good things, like, or whatever, and like to see me not even as a peer, but just like to know who the hell I was, and it's crazy how if you just stay dedicated and do the right thing and communicate with people and just be friendly and be out there and try to make decisions with the animals in mind and the future of the animals in mind, like
Totally.
it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Don't think and it stinks because we're all kind of growing towards these like information now and like the social media age and everything, but like yes, it can feel like a sprint, but it's really a marathon. And if I think of where I was 15 years ago to where I am now, it's like it's insane. So the network is right here, and I feel comfortable knowing that whatever species it is in question that I want to talk about or feel like I need to talk about, there's a friend right there at my fingertips who I can, not literally, figuratively, at my fingertips is gross, but that I can tap into to chat with and connect with about whatever is going on. I don't have enough time in the day now is the issue to talk about the things that I want to. Yeah.
So last question. Dan from Dan's Turtle Room wants to know if you are working on another book.
Yeah. So great question, Dan. I appreciate you. My wife and I are working on a book that's, I'd say in terms, because you write the book and that's like half the battle, and then you have to edit and put it all together and everything, which is like the other half of the battle, which is like less fun. We're like 80% through writing it. We have like a 85-page Word document. We're like 85-page paper basically, which is like the majority of a book written, probably 80%. That we're writing together about like our relationship, and some of the stories are like silly things where I'm like a ridiculous turtle obsessed weirdo and she's a normal person who cares about celebrity gossip and stuff like that, like our podcast, but actually telling our stories and writing about them, which is a really, really fun project that hopefully we'll finish sometime here soon. And then I guess I can say now, because Russ mentioned it on the TTPG live stream, that he and I are working on a new edition of his Keeping and Breeding Freshwater Turtles book, which is like the Bible, the turtle keeping Bible that like I grew up with. I read that thing on the toilet until the pages were falling apart. So yeah, so those are the projects, but that's a huge project. So I mean, it's like I don't even know how big that book is going to be with the new edition, because there's so much more that we know and that we can add, and we've been just adding and taking away very few things. So we'll see. Not to get everyone excited, we're still ways off on that, but it's just exciting to even be working on it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for that book to come out. Hopefully it'll be ready for my kids when they're
hopefully
really interested.
Hopefully, like, it happens. We're still so far, like, with the book I'm writing with my wife, it's like it becomes more real when you get close, because make no mistake, I've started several books that will never be published.
Happen,
You know what I mean? So, like, I have a hard time trusting in myself because of how busy I am with everything, to say, like, this is definitely going to happen within this time frame. Do I think it's going to happen? Yes, I do, and I can't wait. That's why I think it's going to happen, because it would be the thrill of a lifetime. But it's, to get to that, it's a lot. And it's kind of like when you take, like, when you're part of a college program that's like, go at your own pace. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that, lecture tomorrow. And then next thing you know, tomorrow's 6 months later. And so it's tough to juggle everything, but I do chip away at it when I can.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you for joining me on very short notice. Thank you for letting us know about this
Yeah. Thanks for
recent
having me.
news.
Thanks for everything that you're doing, Tom. I
Thank
love these videos, and I'm happy to see people being involved, and I'm happy to be a part of it whenever. This is
Awesome.
what we need, is more talking about all of
Yep.
these things and getting it out there, and then getting people spreading the word more and more. So I'm always happy to chat turtles. Reach out, anybody who wants
Awesome.
to. Just don't be mad at me if I'm flaky, because I can't help it.
And I need a guest for next week. So if you want to be on,
if you should be a guest, you
join
should
me.
tell Tom.
Let me know.
Perfect.
Send me a message, Instagram, Facebook, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Anthony.
Can I say one more thing, Tom?
Yes, absolutely.
One more thing.
Sure.
That's a good way. Like, if you come on and be Tom's guest, that's a good way for me to figure out who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Greg Brashear is here to figure out who you are. Like,
yeah.
that's thrilling.
Yeah.
This, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did he call them? Crate busters? He was talking about people. He said, so no reason to buy from some questionable crate buster on Fauna. Oh my God, I love him so much. Perfect.
He was probably like in between tricks on the skateboard when he.
Yeah, it just comes out of him with, like, effortlessly. It's so good.
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone in the chat. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.